Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Today is Wednesday, May 6, 2020. The time is 1:03 p.m. This is a special meeting to continue our fiscal year 21 budget discussions, and this is a budget review session. Attending are Commissioners Duncan, Brooks, and Filios. Do we have any changes to the agenda? I don't hear of any, and so why don't we move on? We have our fiscal year 2021 review, and we have several items or several areas that we'll be going over. The first is public defender. We're going to be going through public defender, community development, airport, IT, which is information technology, buildings and grounds. And what we're trying to do to keep this as expeditious as possible is to try to go through whatever changes are notable versus the last year, or excuse me, the past year, and any questions my co-commissioners or I might have for you. So, okay, so every one of these groups has met with your liaison, your respective liaison among the three of us. So why don't we start with Ann, Public Defender. Do you want to take the mic, or would you rather come up to the podium, whichever you're most comfortable with?
Anything's fine. I don't have any changes.
Okay.
I spoke with Dina.
Yes, you did.
Previously, and with the projected 2%, I felt like we could make that work. So I don't have any additional asks at this time.
Does anyone have any questions for Ann?
How is your spacing working out so far?
We have 3 cubicles downstairs in that large room, and one of them this week was just filled by an attorney. The other 2 will be filled on August 17th with recent law school graduates. We have 1 position left to fill, no cubicle for that person. I'm not quite sure exactly what we're going to do when that happens, but we are packed in there.
Yes, you are.
We cannot have any more humans in there, I don't believe.
Okay.
Yes, you are. We are well aware of that. That's probably one of the most compelling reasons for moving you and/or building. So we're well aware of it.
Any luck on finding something else to add?
I did not move too far forward with that. I was waiting for further direction of the board when we decided, or when I would learn what we might do with a building project. So if we're not going to be building and you guys would like me to begin looking out, I sure would do that.
Yeah,
We'll
and
know
you're right.
after this budget season.
Yeah, and you're right. We asked you to hold up pending whatever decision we might make about a new building. Bill, do you have any questions for Ann?
Well, with our new reality, with the COVID-19, I'm very concerned that we're not in a business as usual time. And I think when departments were told to add 2% to your budget, I'm not in favor of that right now. We need to start going the other way a little. It has to be an austerity budget. And if revenues warrant it, we can add back. That's my position.
Which is okay, but pretty much everyone has followed the direction they were given, which is.
I understand.
And again, when we get down to the final throws, we might have to make cuts, but for now, but the point's well taken.
Well, we're over now, so we do have to make cuts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Either that or find additional revenue. Not sure whether that's going to be realistic between now and the time we get to. When is our final submission to you, Dina? Is it July, beginning of July?
Mid-July.
Okay.
We'll get the final medical numbers then.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything further for Ann?
I'm good.
Thank you.
That was easy. Community development, David.
Well, this should be a repeat performance. We have 2 significant asks. One of them is in the IT budget,
That's
which
correct.
you are well aware of.
Yep.
And then we're asking for 2 new cars, which fleet management supports,
Okay.
and nothing out of the ordinary otherwise.
Okay.
How, do you think going forward that you'll be able to utilize working from home?
Yes.
Great. Okay.
And I believe, it's a little early to say with certainty, but I believe it's entirely possible that that could cut our need for expansion.
Great.
Did as we go through this whole COVID situation and most of your folks are working from home, have you noticed, and I think you already answered this, but it's worth asking again, Have you noticed any difference in your volume of work? Building permits, for example?
No, it's actually continued at the same level.
Okay.
And one thing I have noticed is that there are certain efficiencies. The building inspection staff is a lot more efficient going directly from home to the job site and then back to home, and everything's computerized. The planners working directly from home arguably are getting more done, not less. We're taking as many as 30 calls a day on the front counter planners. So that tells you how busy we are.
Wow, that's great.
So how are the planners working with applicants?
On Zoom and on the telephone.
And it's working out?
Uh-huh.
So they're able to review plans?
Most people in today's development world use high-end technology. That's both the developer and their consultants. And so Zoom is really pretty easy compared to the CAD software and other things they use for planning purposes.
Interesting. Okay, so with IT, this is the new tracking software?
Yes, sir. 60.
Okay.
And the 60 is up from last year when we talked about this because we pay more up front in order to pay less in the long run.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, and the two vehicles are SUVs, I presume? All-wheel drive?
All-wheel drive, right.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Because most of our inspections are in hard-to-reach
And
places.
hard-to-reach places, yeah. I get it.
Especially in the winter.
Questions for David?
I'm good.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. Okay, Stephen, you came just in time. Airport. How are you?
I'm good, Commissioners. How are you?
Okay. Okay, then, go right ahead. You stayed within your 2%, didn't you?
Yep.
Okay.
I have a feeling the main questions are about the two new personnel and then the $250,000 that we're actually asking for the building, which is, the $250,000 is basically a planning discussion of we need to start planning for funding our building, and realistically, most of that money is going to be grant. And whether that stays in a new building or it goes into grant prep, it's just we need, in my opinion, we need to plan to pay for that somehow instead of just leaving that number somewhere.
Okay.
It's all going to be, most of that is going to be grant funded, as I said. We should receive that grant sometime next year. It'll probably be one of the last grants issued by the FAA, in my opinion, but we have to do the design work ahead of time in order to be ready for that grant.
Okay.
With that grant for the snow removal building, snow equipment removal, would they consider purchasing a building that exists?
It would have to meet the plans. It would have to most likely be on the airport, and they
Okay.
could discuss it. But maybe is my best answer.
Maybe, okay.
You know which one we're referring to, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, all right. I mean, it's not confidential because it's public record, but it's the building that's currently occupied by Kootenai Electric. Would that work for you?
No.
And why is that?
It's how the bays are set up. The bays, if you actually walk through their bay areas, they actually back their vehicles in, and then there's actually a 4 to 5 foot rise. So their entire bay area, most of it's actually, you'd have to remove the entire area for us to actually use it. Because most airport snow equipment, especially new ones, are 24 foot wide by between 40 and 60 foot long. So their bays are typically about 30 foot wide, and their doors are only about 12 foot wide. You'd have to do significant modifications to the building, which would probably cost more than the building.
Do we have any of these 24 by 60 foot?
We have a 24 or 22 foot broom that is about 40 foot long right now. We have 2 of those. And then also it is on our CIP to actually purchase a 60 foot long by 24 foot wide snow piece as well.
In the future?
Yep.
Okay.
Right.
Would there be another place where those vehicles could be stored?
We do not have any under or inside space as it sits today, other than what we have today, and we only have one bay on the airport that can fit that, and that is at the R station.
And that's where?
The R station, because you
Okay.
can turn and maneuver barely.
Okay. Interesting. Any other questions for,
Just about your two people, are you
Yes.
fully staffed right now?
We are fully staffed right now, and this is really a question to the board about whether you want to take the risk of having an entity operate outside of normal business hours where we're not there. I did actually come up with a way where we could fund this without increasing my budget, but it takes an entire revamp of my department.
Okay.
I can show you how. This is our current org chart, and this is what I'm proposing as a possible new org chart.
thank you.
As you know, my As you know,
Go ahead.
my assistant director is retiring at the end of the year, or excuse me, not even the end of the year, in August. We also have a part-time mechanic position that we could look at removing. And this would save about $100,000, which would be roughly what we would actually be for those two positions. We already would have those loaded costs from those two other positions anyways. We would just move into the other positions. We would also look at raising the lead positions up to supervisors, because as we lose the deputy director position, I need some sort of help and assistance for the backfill. But there should be monies left over from that change in the deputy director position. The one issue you do have is there is no backfill for a director position if or when I eventually leave. So it leaves the question of, what does that look like?
Succession.
Succession planning. How do you plan in the future? That's one of your real ramifications on how do you move forward with that. And what do you look at that in the future?
Okay.
And that's a serious consideration.
But it also goes back to, what do you as the board wish to do this? I am on the fence on this position because I'm not sure it's needed or not to add these two positions. It's more of in response to a tenant on the field that is planning to be open longer. And it is an FBO, and FBOs tend to, putting it mildly, cause havoc.
Yeah. Just require more service.
They require more services. And especially with two FBOs in the field, in my opinion, that we will have a significant competition in the near future.
Okay.
It would be very beneficial for us to be around.
With your new org chart, are you able to split the shifts so you have people
We'd
covering
be
it?
there from probably about 5 a.m. to 1 a.m.
Okay.
every day,
20 hours a day.
20 hours a day. So it would
So with
change.
this 10 people with the new org chart? 7 days?
Be 7 days a week.
But you're eliminating, in essence, two positions.
Well, we're just moving those two positions away. They were just
Okay, yeah.
transferred,
Yeah, yeah.
different allocation.
Okay.
Okay. So this is the perfect time to do it. It just seems like a little bit late in the process. So what would you, Dina, suggest if we wanted to seriously look at this?
We want to crunch the numbers,
Yeah, run the numbers and see where we go.
look at the timing of retirements, and
Okay.
we just lay it all out and calculated. And
Okay.
then we would bring that back to you for consideration.
Okay.
Okay.
So is that something that you guys have bandwidth to do in the next month?
Budget? Yeah,
Okay.
so we can do that.
Okay. I would love to see that. I really would. In order to offer service 7 days a week, 5 a.m. to 1 a.m., I think that's
We do offer services 7 days a week today.
Yes, but it's just, they're not there. Yeah. So, I don't know.
And that, yeah, so that presents safety concerns and other issues as well. No, I think it's a good idea. Yeah, run the numbers by, Bill?
We should, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? And you have a targeted acquisition for the 69 grand coming in as a result of COVID?
Yep, we do have the request, it will be a request at some point to use that funding to remove the toolcat from this year's budget, or
Okay.
next year's budget, excuse me, to purchase a toolcat, which I believe has already been pulled out.
Yep.
We also have
Yeah.
a Part 139 leasing software that we're requesting, which is $15,000.
Right.
We actually still use basically paper and pencil
Right.
for our tracking of all of our FAA-required documentation. And if you really look at our methodology, how we do most of our leasing tracking, it is actually still paper or an Access database.
What is the yearly fee on that?
It'd be $15,000.
Okay, so 15 to start and 15 every year? And is that something that you have restricted funds for?
We would have restricted funds to cover it.
So as, just as a side note, so at board direction on Friday, anywhere where there were restricted funds to fund capital, I went ahead and popped those in. So all those green lines are
Restricted
restricted
funds,
funds that have
good.
been applied in the preliminary summary to pay for those requests.
Fair enough. Makes sense.
And additionally, as soon as we can have a public hearing, we will be rolling in 2 new fees that will generate more than enough to cover that as the facility use fee and the car rental fee.
Okay.
It's just that I cannot tell you how much they will be, especially this year. And in my
Right.
opinion, I do not want to budget a number into those.
Yeah.
And I do want to build a budget based upon whatever this year will be.
Right, yeah.
That would pay for your software subscription every year.
Easily.
Are we renting cars today?
We are not renting.
We are not, okay.
A good way to think of our vehicles, especially airport vehicles, if they are done correctly, they're very similar to police cars.
So I'm sorry, are you talking about rental for people coming in?
That's what.
Yeah,
No,
so
no,
not,
no,
not
no, no,
What are
your,
you
sorry.
referring to? Go ahead.
So we would be placing when you go to an airport today, if you look at the rates and fees on it, you see a percentage that goes to the airport. We would be instituting a fee on top of that as well. We talked about 5%. So anytime somebody rents a car at the airport, we would receive 5% of the
Okay,
rental.
okay. All right. So we're not actually going into the car rental business for the benefit of everybody listening, so they don't think we're going to be taking on Hertz and Avis now.
We are not doing that.
Okay, all right.
and there's some local GAs local general aviation airports that do that.
Yep, there are.
Okay, good.
All right, so just the other question, I didn't see it in my capital ask, but you were talking about is it 250,000 for the design?
Yeah, it's in there. It's somewhere, wasn't it?
Is it grant funded?
It might have been under, because I have it here, it's under, pull through my paperwork.
I haven't seen, we didn't get any requests for,
We had it under org set 30.1.101.2.
Yeah, I don't have that.
Linda said she submitted it.
We can add it.
And keep in mind that we had it as $250,000 as a placeholder.
Right.
We don't have the design work contracts, anything done. It's a placeholder of, in my opinion, we should plan our number better of, instead of a grant prep number of 10 to 20 to 30,000 that we put in there normally.
Right,
This is a significantly bigger project
yeah,
than we typically do.
right. But this is typically from restricted funds as well, or is this general?
This would be restricted. This comes from our budget as well, our funding account as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Not our general fund to you, it's the restricted.
It's our restricted fund. Yeah.
Gotcha.
The
Okay.
airport fund.
Okay. Anything else?
I think I'm good. Do you go through fleet management at all with your new pickups and your new
We do
cars?
submit it. The issue we ran into is nobody in the county has pickups.
Has what?
Nobody in the county really has pickups. The police don't buy
yeah.
pickups.
Well, like Parks and Waterways does and some of those,
But nobody,
yeah.
yeah, we don't, nobody buys pickups, and they do, they're all brand new for the most part, so. And we're, the best way to describe our vehicles, as I said, is they're police vehicles, because the way to actually do them is we decal them,
Right,
we should install radios into them, they
Right,
have full
okay.
light bar packages.
right.
And we also do extreme, significant damage to their turning, because we go in circles a lot. We do.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Who do you order the pickups from?
we just do the state, we get local pricing. If they're fairly close to the state, we buy locally. If they're not, we'll go through state bid.
Okay. All right. Anything else for Stephen? Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We'll get with Linda and get that form submitted and put that number in. There was no amount entered, so she didn't enter the amount, so, yeah.
Okay. Moving on. James Martin, IT, Information Technology.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. IT budget, no new personnel requests being asked for this year. Our operating B budget is basically the same as last year, definitely under the 2% allotted amount. For our capital request, we're asking for $492,000 in additional capital requests that could be paid for. That's listed in our IT capital plan that could be spent from the IT portion of fund balance. If that amount is still available after everything else. Two items that weren't budgeted for in our IT capital plan is the $260,000 for the
Looking at that.
community development software,
Yeah,
and also a Spillman cell phone app for law enforcement, public safety management.
Right.
The managers to be able to see what's going on just via their cell phone.
so
So the total request would be $785,000.
right.
for everything.
Dina, is it possible to know how much last year was from fund balance versus how much was tax dollars from their capital?
budget.
Request?
We can look that up.
Okay, good. Okay, yeah, and that's fine.
I have a feeling most of it was fund balance. I think we
I
set
think so.
aside about $600,000 a year.
Yeah.
For their 5-year plan.
Right.
And they usually pull from fund balance.
Okay. All right,
But we
this,
can validate that.
yeah, that would be great. I'd like to see that. So I think everything is, it looks like everything is pretty critical except for the, that $32,000 app. So I probably would be not likely to support that this year if we're just trying to keep things down and,
I would have to agree. It would be very useful, but it's probably the least critical of all the things.
And
we're
what's
asking
it
for. Of
used
course,
for?
it's the cheapest thing, too.
Spillman,
What's it used for?
It's so the command staff, mostly at the sheriff's office, they can be anywhere and just have their cell phone and see what's going on in dispatch or what calls are coming in so they can react if necessary. And just kind of have a snapshot of everything that's going on just via their cell phone.
How do they do it today?
They have laptops that they carry with them, and they usually have those laptops with them.
So it's basically just, it's just more convenient in that they can pick it up on their mobile
Yes,
device.
and this app that Spillman came out with it's fairly new. It's a few years old, and it's just way more convenient. They've made it to where you can see everything in a very convenient format on their cell phone. It'd be a lot easier for them.
Okay.
Potentially save time.
Bill, thoughts?
I'm for putting that one off.
There's two. Okay, let's take it off.
Just right now is not the time to be.
Okay.
yeah, is there, anything else that you want to highlight in there? I mean, there's some pretty.
I do. I brought Carrie Cole from our department to speak to the on-base. It's another one of our expensive agenda requests. So if you don't mind her coming.
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
podium.
come right up. You get the floor, Carrie.
Hello.
How are you?
Good, how are you guys?
Okay.
On-base is to replace our current paperclip system, which is a countywide imaging system. It houses basically all the departments' imaging, or no more paper, it's all electronic. And that system will be outdated and not functioning after Windows 10. So we have approximately 4 to 5 years to replace it and not lose the ability to see the images that are already there. So the majority of the cost is for conversion, because we have a lot of images. So we have to pay a per image conversion fee to move to a new software.
But I see that you guys outlined it. It's just approximately about 100,000 per year for the next 4 years to get the whole thing implemented.
Right,
Is it more user-friendly? Because Paperclip and I are not friends.
yes, it
Okay.
is.
Okay.
I've only seen bits and pieces of it, but it looks really good, and I think everybody's gonna like it.
And there's a couple of big counties using it. Is that right?
Yes, Canyon County and Banyan County
Okay.
and Spokane County.
Oh, okay. And you've
And
talked
you've
to
spoken with them?
I have,
Okay.
they love it, they absolutely love it. I haven't heard anything bad about it.
Okay.
Okay.
And what was that cost again? Was it 150?
Let's see, for this year.
What are we looking at?
123,000 for the first year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And ongoing, what's the recurring?
The reoccurring was an additional 30,000 to 40,000 a year above what we're
Maintenance
paying
and
right
support.
now.
Okay. Seems to make sense. Yeah, go right ahead, Carrie.
Right, so it allows for a workflow type process. So one of the things that they've asked for budgeting is to be able to have the budget process workflow from person to person to person when you're filling out the documents, have email notifications that happen throughout that, be able to identify who made what changes. It has that kind of ability. We can take any form and put it out for even public to fill the form out, and then it all flows electronically through the whole system. We would have the ability to create any kind of little application that we wanted to do that with, from status change forms to budget to records requests, anything like that.
It would automate a lot of our form-based operations.
Okay. Yeah, come right up, Grant.
We've been asked many, many times about a particular software called SharePoint. You've probably heard about that before. Microsoft is also a workflow of that process. SharePoint is such a behemoth that in order for us to implement that here in the county, we would have to ask you for another person just to run that thing.
wow.
So one of the huge advantages of getting a software that is already countywide, like our community software, and having workflow built into it, saves us an entire personnel request as well. So I just want to make sure.
Okay,
That
cool.
comes to our side quite a bit for that.
And then I see here that with the 4-year implementation, BOCC will be first to convert, and then 2022 would be auditor, HR, airport, building and grounds, corner IT. Then you've got year 3 and year 4, and year 4 would clean up with all the remaining departments who use it, so.
Correct, yeah, I've tried to group them together to departments that work together so that they can all move to the imaging system together.
Yeah. Okay, we got to get it done, because the one thing I don't want to do is wake up at year 3 and they say, oh yeah, we said 4 to 5 years, but we're done. And then you can't have a 1-year implementation for this.
No, we wouldn't have the manpower to even do that either, so.
Yeah.
Project name, this is the SO 911 system?
This is on.
Oh, okay. All right, let me see what else we,
Yeah, did you want James to speak to that?
yeah, would you mind?
Oh,
You come with an entourage.
Good
Go
afternoon.
ahead, Grant.
So the SO911 SAN, that stands for Storage Area Network. What that is a giant hard drive. It's enterprise grade, of course, all kinds of redundancies, very resilient. that's the next step we're taking in providing uptime and resiliency for that public safety system that us and so many other agencies rely on. We've gone a big step within the last few years, getting it to a point of redundancy, buying multiple servers that run in a redundant way. The last piece basically to put together to guarantee that redundancy when failures happen is storage. You've got to have storage that's intelligent enough so if you have two servers, they're both talking to the same place. You can't have servers storing independent data on each other, and when one goes down, this one has a different set of data. You just lost all kinds of productivity. So this centralized storage system, first and foremost, provides that redundancy for the public safety system, but it also provides that same type of storage and redundancy for all of our data at the sheriff's campus.
Okay. And then, don't we have some kind of program where we have local agencies they give us money every year? Is that Spillman or what?
They do, and
Okay.
they're already doing that.
Right,
for
right.
Spillman. This, I would say, would not easily fall into the confines of that, because we
Sure.
basically already charge them for the compute and everything that we do up front. This is gonna be used for quite a bit more than just the Spillman
Just,
system.
okay. I was just making sure. So.
Okay. And,
It's already in our fund balance project,
No, I think he's meaning,
like enhanced 911.
yeah.
It's not 911.
it's
It
not.
says 911 on there for some reason. It's really, that's where they tell us we're splitting hairs when we get into the Spillman system and things like that.
Yeah.
That's how we submitted it. It's shared by 911, but it's also for the jail and sheriff.
Okay.
Okay.
It's more operational, department-type data storage than it is 911 actual functionality. It's kind of like when we want to buy a desk at 911, they tell us we can't do that because that's facility, it's not
Right.
911 directly.
Direct operation. I just have one final question. The email firewall?
Yes, so that is going to be replacing a system that's been doing a great job for about 8 to 10 years here at the county. It's just gotten tired, and as you can imagine, 10 years of technology, and it's still doing a good job in front of email, which is it is the number one infection rate for malicious code coming into organizations. It's partly because the hardware's old, we need to do it, and it's also because there's just so much more logical bells and whistles that they can put in these things now to help defend us. And so we've gone well beyond the useful life of the device. We've contracted with them for several years to keep it going. And so that's why it's in the capital plan. It's one of those that we wanted to try to make that 8-year mark on it. We made it, and now it's definitely time to get the next thing.
And now, is this any more crucial with more people working from home?
No, because the people working from home are still accessing their systems here at work, opening their email, doing their.
So same difference.
It's still protecting the people
Okay,
from that
okay. Fair enough.
level.
Any other questions for Grant? Thank you. Appreciate it. IT in general, are we okay?
I'm good.
You're fine,
And
Leslie?
Are
Bill?
we've removed the app?
32,000, right? Yeah.
Okay.
We took it out. Okay. All right. Buildings and grounds. Greg? Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, take it away, Greg.
I think we're pretty good on our budgets from last year. We have a few asks. I have some ADA doors, but I believe that was put in assessor budget,
Oh,
and same with the walkway out there.
okay.
So I don't know if we want to scrap those off of mine, or
Are we double counting there? Do we know?
No, we've cleaned that up. I thought that was all.
Well, because I didn't see any assessor capital stuff. I wonder, would it be in their B budget?
It's in Greg's B budget.
Oh, okay.
This is just C.
yeah, and we discussed.
Okay.
it. I
This is
just
just
didn't-
capital. The B budget's more of a maintenance thing. So the assessor doors were what, $7,000 or something?
$2,800.
Yeah, it's
So.
in maintenance budget.
Yeah, it's $7,000 total for both things.
Okay, so the JJC chiller replacement, that's the Juvenile Justice Center?
That we're going to try to take out of restricted funds, or
Oh.
not restricted
Yes.
funds, but
Okay,
district court funds.
okay.
Yes, so can we, has that already been moved, or can we move that?
We haven't moved that yet.
We can move that
Okay.
to restricted, okay? Okay, all right. HVAC replacement, is that admin? What building is that?
HVAC unit, that's going to be at the
Juvenile
JDC.
detention?
JDC?
And those are both going to go under five-year
Okay.
plan.
Yeah, all this is 5-year
And evidence storage, vehicle processing pole barn?
That's not these guys yet, is it? Sheriff's Department?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong line, okay.
There's,
So, I think the skid steer, wasn't there some work being done, like to get one from airport or
Yes,
something?
he's gonna
Yeah,
pass it
if
on.
I get the one from Steve, and then we have a few other options we can deal with on
Okay,
that, so.
so I'm fine with doing away with that, right now.
Yeah, just get it from Stephen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since he's getting the money from feds. You okay with that?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay, good.
Like I said, that'll open up a couple options. We'll do some trading around from our departments.
cool.
Make it all work.
Okay.
And then, what else? What's the next one? Shop Edition, that's, Tom's shop is like everybody out of space. You know, it's just really tight when they're working in there and have projects going on.
Yeah,
It'd be nice to get that. We'll see, you know,
I'm just not sure it can be a priority for this year.
yeah, may not be able to. I mean, they do need it. They've needed it for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And I'd like to have it.
Well,
but
there's
if we're-
some other things too that we're thinking about moving around, and so once those get into motion, I think we'll know better about what we have
Yeah,
available.
because there are other facilities that we're
It's
looking
early.
at, so we might be able to get this resolved in the process.
Okay.
so do you want to leave it for now? or-
Yeah, for now, yeah. Hopefully that'll come out, but,
And then the sliders are going to be a 5-year plan also.
Yeah. Is it possible just to do 2, or do we really need to do 3 for this year?
In that area, there's 3 in that particular area.
Oh, okay.
So it'd be better to do 3. If we had to do 2, we could, but it'd be better to do all 3 at once.
Okay.
now these are the sliders that are typically open automatically that separate areas of the building? They're costly, huh?
You know, they're very costly.
I'll say.
$27,000 each.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
If there's money, because this is 5-year plan stuff, if there's money in the 5-year plan, would we look at maybe doing some of these projects?
Yeah, we're looking at doing that right now, so.
Okay, so then maybe in the next, before June 8th, or I guess just as soon as you know, then we'll be able to take that out of
Take
the,
that out too, yeah.
yeah, so,
Super.
The sliders you would not be able to take out of this year's money because
okay.
it takes too long to get the parts.
Oh, okay,
So we ordered parts for the 2 sliders we bought this year, and we did that in November.
They're about 10, 12 weeks out for parts.
So we're thinking we're not even gonna see them completed till July. So sliders, we couldn't do that. But
okay,
I met with Leslie today, and I share with the 2 of you, as it sits right now, because last year we did not spend a lot of money in the 5-year plan, because if you remember, we didn't know how we were gonna fund the fuel tank project out of
Right,
jail.
right.
You know, everything was kind of, so bottom line is, there's about $140,000 sitting in the 5-year plan, above and beyond what we've already paid for and committed to. So we can take a look at things that we know we can get before the end of September, like, for instance, an air conditioning unit or an additional 1 or 2 rooftop units and some of the stuff that might be in there. You could take it out of that number by putting it into this year's budget. And it would all go before you for approval anyway.
Okay,
There
fine.
is some funding there to kind of ease the crunch that's up there.
right. So probably the urinals, would that be an easy one to put in to?
That's something we can take out of our budget itself. They're about $1,700
out of the 5-year plan?
Well, he can take that out of his budget.
Okay.
Yeah, so see, that's.
Oh, for this year? Oh, so then we can take that
So
out.
we can take it out of this exercise.
Okay.
Okay, good.
So we're in agreement?
Yeah.
Yes.
You can delete those.
We generally take those out at the end of the year to supply our shop with extras.
Okay.
Those are really expensive.
They're $1,800.
Okay.
What is this again?
The 20,000 in
locks?
locks?
They're about $1,800 a piece. It doesn't matter where you get them, either if it's JDC or it's the same lock. So, you know, that's something that I think you could look at in a couple months and maybe get, instead of 20, get 10. Because I'm looking at that, is the JDC one up there? I can't see it. The JDC. Is there-
JDC's got HVAC and a water heater holding tank.
So see, those two right there, you might be able to knock those in there as well. It has to be stuff that we can order and have it done before the end of the fiscal year.
But is that the replace water heater and tank, that's not court funds?
That's not what?
The court funds? District court funds?
No, the possibility of using lottery money might be there for that.
I don't want
but-
to count on that right now. Nobody's won.
Yeah, and
a
I think
while.
the last time we talked, there wasn't much money left in there. Deb
Yeah.
said she didn't know if she had enough to
No.
do what she had to do.
But you're saying maybe FY20 5-year plan?
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to sit down and crunch the numbers with the guys to see what it is that they want to do, and then I could come back to you and say, here's what we thought we could
so
get
mark it.
Okay.
off of there. If you want me to do that, I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah,
Is that,
please.
Greg, are you okay?
Yeah, me and Sean have been talking about a
Yeah,
lot of
okay,
this
good.
stuff, so
Okay.
So why don't I get with them and we'll take a look, Dina, at what we can pull out of there, and maybe
So
we can
for like
save some money for the.
HVAC and all
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because we kind of got to put our heads together and figure out the time frame to get some of that stuff bid, if we have to do that or whatever.
Okay. That it? I think we covered everything, didn't we? Okay.
you have the ADA ramp cover.
Yeah, we
In
didn't
the
touch on
back,
that.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, it's 60,000, right.
yeah.
And what ramp are we covering?
It's the east side that goes to the basement of the sheriff's office. It's currently uncovered. It has been for years, and there's been ice issues. So that was something we looked at with the expansion, but it was gonna be too expensive at the time.
Which is more of a priority? Adding on to the shop for 70,000 or getting this covered at 60,000?
Yeah.
Definitely the ADA? Okay. So I'd be willing to say, let's get that done then, potentially then, and just hold off on the shop. I know it's
Did
hard
we
to
remove
be
the
cramped.
shop?
We did not,
Not yet, huh?
You want to?
right.
Yeah, why don't we remove the shop? Only because I think we're gonna have a solution to that before we finalize this.
And we can add it back.
And if not, exactly, if we have to. Yeah. Bill, you
your dad.
okay with that?
Yeah,
Leslie? Okay. All right. Did we capture everything? I think we did. All right. Thank you,
The
Greg.
only other thing is, I think we had a frozen position out there. I don't think it's on there anymore. We want to make sure that's still on there, just in case, down the road, you know. We just try to keep it on there every year.
Right. So, yeah, I couldn't find it. I have a frozen list, or an open position list, I
Yeah,
suppose,
frozen would not be on.
on the open position. Oh, okay. Yeah, so if we can look at that.
Yeah, we can research that.
Okay.
Okay, and then as far as your, I had a question on the seasonal, because I didn't find it in my new stuff, but Dina seems to think that your seasonal is still captured.
Yeah, it should still
Going
be
forward.
in my,
It would be in his current,
in my
Yeah.
current budget.
across at the same rate as last year.
Perfect.
And seasonal for you is what? Is that the winter?
That's the winter,
Okay, because of the plowing.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
okay.
I may have someone for our janitorial position also.
Yay.
Oh, cool. Okay, good, thank you.
Interviewed one this morning, so she seems like she's.
Super.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, anything else?
No, just
That's
come back to us and let's see how far that gets us down the road.
All right,
So,
thanks.
thank you.
Thanks, Greg, appreciate it. Thank you, Sean. Okay,
Oh, BOCC.
the official items, yeah. BOCC, our departments, or actually our immediate department. Welcome, Leanna. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
I believe you each have a copy of a summary printed out for you.
Yes, we do. Okay.
So we have 5 different budgets that we prepare in our office. The first one is for our office, the administrative office. We had pretty much 0 increase there, so we stuck with the 2%. We're a little bit under that, so nothing new.
Okay.
Speak up.
The next one is the general accounts, and that is our 10.1.003 account. If you're more familiar with that term. We had a decrease of $42,000 in that budget because we had, it was brought to light that postage was decreased. It probably should have been decreased last year, but we didn't know exactly when it would have taken effect. But DMV registrations are now paid, the mailing for those is paid through the state. So that actually saves the county about $153,000. So for next year, we won't need to budget for that. So we have a decrease of $153,000. A new ask that we have this year is the indigent unclaimed bodies, that we had a resolution to add that to our budget for this year. That's $12,000. We have a couple of community support partners that are requesting increases. We had 2 that requested increases this year. One is the University of Idaho. They requested an increase of $8,523. And then we had the Soil and Water Conservation District requested an increase of $4,000. So I believe you'll be deliberating about those maybe in one of your future meetings. I'm not sure if you're deliberating today. And then we have a request to increase our contingency reserve by $100,000. Luckily, we have this offset of postage from the DMV registration. This is for a possible mailing for
The general.
the general election. If the general election in November is a mail-in only election, which we haven't heard it is, but we're just trying to plan. We calculated a little bit of numbers, number crunching, and we came out almost $100,000. So we thought it was prudent to put aside some money in
Absolutely.
contingency, just to have that on hand. If we find before we finalize budget that we are not doing it that way, we can certainly take it out. But we thought it was probably a good idea to put it in there just in case.
Makes good sense.
The other fund that we do is the Justice Fund. The only increase we had in that was a $30,000 increase for the litigation fund. And that is because if we pay this year, it's $15,000. But because we did not pay, it's every other year we pay into this fund. We didn't pay in 2019. So we now have to get caught up. So it would be a $30,000 fee to get caught up for that.
Okay. And for everybody's benefit, can you explain what that's used for?
I believe that fund is for any litigation that may come to the county for property valuations. And so I don't think we use it very often, but it's probably a good thing to have
I remember Mike
contributions into
McDowell-
the fund in case we
Mike-
do need
yeah,
it.
Mike was a big advocate for it when he was here.
Well, they've had to use it twice in the last 20 years.
Okay.
And so that's not a whole lot, but my understanding is when you get into these cases.
Look out.
It's, yeah,
It
it's
could be
pretty
very
significant.
It can be expensive. Okay.
So that's up to the board if you want to pay that fee for this year. But that's the only item that had gone over budget in that particular
Okay.
account. The other one,
Panhandle?
we do the Panhandle Health District. Essentially, they tell us what the numbers are. They had their budget meeting. They came out with a number of $824,859, which is a little more, about 21,000 increase over last year, 2.58%. And then the last one is the aquifer.
That's just a population-based
It
number.
is, yes.
Valuation and
Yeah, yeah.
population.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're just, I hate to use the word stuck, but
Right.
we're stuck.
Essentially, they tell us what the number is.
Okay.
The Aquifer Protection
APD,
District
yeah.
has a budget hearing coming up in June. After they have their hearing, we will schedule a meeting with you to review their budget. I believe at that time, cuts can be made, questions can be answered from them specifically. Right now, they're requesting $587,000 for their budget, so, which is about, I believe, 30,000 more than they asked for last year. So, but
And
they
what-
have more information on that, and I believe when they meet with you, they can
Oh,
go through
okay,
all the details
okay.
on that.
Yeah, they'll.
That's the
they'll
one
out-
that I had questions about.
Yes,
Okay.
it is a
They'll
good,
outline all their
it is a
projects.
good jump.
Okay.
And they do have a lot of projects.
Yeah. Yeah, with APD, fund balance, restricted fund balance.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Did you have any questions?
Any questions for Leanna?
Pretty, straightforward.
That it? Thank you. Okay, then. Anybody else have anything to add? No?
Well,
Dina?
so just things to think about that are sitting in your budget. We were kind of noodling on this last night. So I wanted to just talk through. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I was looking at our temp pool and also at our sick leave terminations. And if you recall at our meeting last week.
Okay. If you recall at our meeting last week, we were talking about retirements and we were talking about that VEBA account. So we're kind of familiar with the temp pool right now. We're trending where we're not using all of our temp pool, so we could potentially reduce that. But we don't know what's happening with COVID. We might want it there as a buffer, just in case we don't get reimbursed for everything. But I wanted to give you a visual of our usage of the temp pool, and I'll send all this to you. And then our sick leave termination, it looks like leapfrog because we've been kind of guessing at what we thought we would need and then budgeting for it and then, oh, well, we didn't need it. So then we cut our budget and then we have this huge swing. The red line represents what we actually used. So this year, we actually talked to HR and asked around some of the departments to see who is retiring so that we could kind of get our arms around that. So part of our personnel summary has retirements in it. We do not have adequate sick leave termination. I don't believe. I think we're averaging about $200,000 across the last 4 years. Right now, it's at about $90,000. So that's something to consider if you wanted to increase that to make accommodations for the VEBA payouts and the retirements that are coming up. So it's just one of those things where we have to pay for it. It's a separation cost for employees. So just something to noodle on.
Okay.
And then just our preliminary summary, just to take a quick peek. And we will be updating this with the last minute changes that we got. I did a little footnoting down here. We do have several open positions, but those are in flux right now. There's been a mad dash to do some hiring, so some of this will go down. But we have a substantial amount of open positions, and I can send you that schedule to review, and then we can talk through it, because there's a lot of information in there. I don't want to drag you through it right now, but I will send that to you. But right now, at a 0% tax increase and new growth, which I adjusted for the assessor's number, we did get confirmation Post Falls Celtice 2 is closing. So I've factored in that mid number that includes Post Falls URD. This will likely increase. It always has.
We have a good trend, but we want to be conservative. So right now,
What's the closure worth?
it's about 30, well, let's look. That's the value. And so this is the supplemental rolls that we know about. This is the occupancy we know about. And then if we add in the Celtics too, that gives us this number times last
The mill
year's levy rate gives us that number. Now, our trend shows that we're trending much higher. So chances are we're going to have access to more. So if we do a 10% increase over last year, then that's what our number would be. But again, we want to be conservative, and we should be getting some numbers from the assessor about the end of this month.
So when you say new growth, okay, I'm sorry.
Yep.
You're taking properties entering it's basically all properties entering the tax rolls, be they properties recently completed.
Mid-year.
Plus URD.
So it's all those fractional values that we can
Okay.
tax, and we apply last year's tax rate, because that's our
Mill
best
rate.
guess
Right.
of how to calculate that.
Right.
And when those two numbers come together, then we get that new growth number.
So technically, if you were doing the 1.19?
Yep. And I can change that here. I've made a handy dandy little chooser.
I'm just curious what that does to our bottom line.
Then that reduces
I don't want
us.
to be overly optimistic, but I'm just,
That reduces us to about 6.4 with our new changes. So just phenomenally low for this point in the game. And that's at 0%. Here are your numbers at 3, 2, and 1, just to have visibility when you get down to the end, if you want to start, looking at those. So this position budget number is as of today. It's slightly higher, but not substantially higher. We get, regular status change forms and HR changes and that kind of thing. So we are constantly adjusting this number to reflect our current payroll. And then these numbers haven't changed much. And I do have the summaries. We were looking at the capital summary earlier. These blue is just so it's easier to see the different departments. So today we covered, and at Commissioner Brooks's suggestion, I added some M's in here for mandated services, just as a visual. The jail is a mandated service. Buying locks for it may or may not, depending upon how much we want to upgrade, but it is a mandated service, so that's kind of what
Right.
drove me in categorizing those. As I said before, restricted funds have been applied in these areas. This gold area, the UTV, Nick has this shared with restricted and non-restricted funds. So I left this in because this piece is already funded by restricted funds. We can talk through that later if you want to talk about maybe backing that off. Still waiting to hear from elections. These 3 items may come off entirely because we may be able to use grant funds. We're calculating how much we've spent because of COVID. That can be used as a grant match. And so that funding may come through before the budget year is done. And then these others, I went ahead and funded E911, the assessor's reval account for their vehicles, and then vessel and snowmobile, and then of course solid waste. So that's where we are. General government capital, just historically low, and low for solid waste too. Really low capital this year. And then personnel, we can take a peek at that one. So Stephen had mentioned a reorg, so we'll go back to our, sharpen our pencils and get that one updated and send you an analysis when we have
Yeah,
that
that'd be
done to
great, yeah.
review. And then, this particular position, or these two positions, and I noticed that the prosecutor came in. Remember, Chris, when you mentioned that that number looked low to you? It was set up as half-time positions, not full-time, so we have updated that number.
Okay.
So that was a good catch. So those are in as full-time people. And then, of course, this second section is all the changes. So I've put in gray solid waste because we know that those are funded through restricted funds, so it just kind of reduces what you have to be agonizing over. And then these are all described. We left the requester's name in here so you could easily pick up the phone and
Good.
call and ask questions if you need to, and all of that is also in your forms for each one of these asks. A lot of these are pools, increases to pools. As a review, most of the pool budgets that we have come in at the prior year's rate, and then increases like overtime and on-call have to be re-asked for each year. So that's driving a lot of these is the overtime and the on-call. And then some grade changes for some positions. And then down at the bottom section, these are the retirements and estimated VEBA payouts. These are just, high-level estimates. We don't know how much vacation and sick leave people are going to have left, but we looked at trends just to give ourselves a dartboard guess of what we think that will cost us. And that is all your personnel. And we set up a link to your O Drive, and we are parking all of these electronic documents there, and we will send you links as we update these, so you will have full access to these. And also, there's supplemental information in here. So this document, which is kind of unwieldy, but this is, each line represents a form that was submitted. So if you have a question about the background story on any of these positions or changes, you can just go to this tab and find that ask, and then go to the right. And there's all the commentary from the form of why that ask is important.
Which we all have printed versions in our book.
Good.
Yep. So that's kind of, that's where we're at today. And like I said, the numbers are constantly changing, and we'll be sending updates. We'll go off and do those analysis requests.
Dina, from that budget page there, are grant-funded positions factored in there?
Yes, and they're already paid for. So what I did is we took all the grant-funded positions, because they have to be in there. They're people that are currently working for us, like public defenders. So they're included here. So up here in this restricted fund balance use, we popped in the funding for those positions. Yeah.
It's interesting when you look at the percentage, the tax increase, the three scenarios, at 3%, 1.5 million. But I always compare that to the total property valuation in the county.
Well, that's less than what we spent in overtime last year.
That's interesting.
So it helps to put things in perspective. They're big numbers, but really considering the county our size and how we're growing, this is a pretty manageable budget. So do you have any questions for me or any requests for additional analysis from Michelle and I? Do you want me
Outside of
to-
what we requested during the process today, I think we're fine.
I'll
Anyone
just
else?
show you on the sticky notes too.
Yeah, go right ahead.
So notice this big empty spot here. We started a new panel. These are all the things that are paid for with restricted fund balance. This is that one that's a combination of restricted, and then levy funds to pay for our vehicles, the vehicle lease year two. So as we fund or toss, the funded ones I'm moving over to you.
Okay. So should we move any IT ones?
It sounds like that
from my notes, I will migrate those
Oh,
over.
okay, so you'll, okay, take care of that.
Yep, so that kind of gives you a running idea visual of where we're at.
Far more promising than this time last year.
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay, thank you, Dina. Anything else? Thank you, Michelle. Public comment? None? 2:08, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.